Hey, Mark. Yeah, I'm live. Not a lot of point talking until someone comes into the room, though. So thank you. What's happening? It's all happening. Who's trying to ring me now? Oh, it's Mark trying to call. Yeah, I guess everyone can hear us, can we? What's the audio like, Mark? Do we have any audio? Can someone hear me? Do we actually have like the correct microphone set up? Let's have a look. Oh, yep, we can hear you. That's excellent. Okay, good stuff. Mate Stephen King sent me some pictures and a drawing of a worn-out big end bearing for an 8 horsepower Marshall traction engine. This is sort of to give us some sort of an idea. Can you still hear me? Probably not. What happened there? Yeah, no idea why we don't have a picture in that one. It's one of life's mysteries. Anyway, this is a big end bearing for a Marshall traction engine. This is the works drawing, which is really quite clear and concise and nice. Not terrible, really. Looking at it, it's a fair lump of bronze. It's 5.5. Looking at it, it's 5 inches by 4 5/8. Bigger than that, actually. 5.5 by 5 by there's no actual outside measurement. Yes, 4 inches through brass. So anyway, it's split down the middle. And it's got a oil hole in the top, which is a strange place to put it, right on the edge of right on the groove there, but I guess that's how they are. And it's got a bit of a lip and a radius on it, and it fits the crankshaft. The conrod is 3'11", 4 foot long. It's a fair lump of an engine. 8 horsepower Marshall traction engine is kind of a big engine. So that's what we got. Mark's the only one here, but we might as well go ahead and start thinking about it. Now, if we open Onshape and sign in, we get a screen probably that looks something like this with all your different projects on it. A few familiar names and projects and things that we've messed with. But we need to create a new one. A new document, I guess we call it. And we'll call it Steve's Marshall. And create a public document like that. Now, these are fairly simple things to draw, to be honest. Let's do it. Basically, it's a square box with the cutout. We'll have to have a look for some actual drawings, but some actual dimensions on this drawing. But probably the best way to do it is to work from the center. If we draw the sketch on the center of the the center of the conrod, which is line. Let's have a look here. We'll go back to this. On this, it's line A. There's the center. Here, if we draw the sketch on the center and then extrude each end, or extrude one way and then mirror the parts and join them together, is probably the easiest way quickest way to do that. So let's have a look. And we're not really trying to find the quickest way to do things, but it sort of helps because life's not getting any longer. If we select the front side there, we've got that plane comes up nice. And probably the first to do is put in a circle. If we put a new sketch here, before we even write a sketch, we're going to have a look here and just make sure that our units are in imperial. So we go up here to these three little bars here, click that one, workspace units. Millimeters it says, so let's change that to inch. And then we start with a sketch. We click the front, or we can click this over here where it says front. And the sketch on the front window stays open there. Click on the center point there. And what size do we need this? 3 3/4, the crank size. Probably isn't the crank size after it's been ground, but there we go. We can just type in the number after we click the button. 3.75. So that's the inner circle there, or the journal that runs on the crankshaft. We need a square then that's 5.5 by 5 inches on that same center. So the easy way to do that, go up here and this little drop down with center point rectangle. You can use a small r for that. So it's 5 inches long, which is that bottom window down there. This one up here is I might have that the wrong way around. I do. Easy enough to change. We'll put a measurement on here. I click that line with the measurement tool. That's 5 inches. The other one, which we've got a measurement on as well, if we unclick, we can move that down so we can actually read that. And if we look at that, it's 5.5. So we can double click on there and 5.5. And that gives us the basically the sketch of the inside of the brass. This is the journal, and this sits inside the yoke or the keeper on the con rod. If we look at this, there's actually a steel keeper with 2 bolts in it and a wedge to keep it tight. It looks like a pretty good little system, actually. It's a much nicer system with a wedge and a little lock nut than the stupid Fowler system with the overhead bolt and the thread and all the thread on the wedge and all that. We broke one, actually. Retaining bolt, but we had one in the toolbox on the Fowler at the National Rally. So that's probably a weak point, whereas this seems like a really good system if you can get it tight. Anyway, next part is this piece on the outside here with the round corners. If we look at it, where that big capital B is on the plan view at the top, oh, that's the sketch we've got. It's 5 by 5.5. So the other one is 4 3/8 high and 4 5/8 long. Is that correct? I believe so. So we'll put another sketch in here using the same tool. .625 inches is 4 5/8, and 4.375 is 4 3/8. So this here has a radius on it, and what does that drawing look like the radius it's got? You can't see that because I've actually changed back to that picture, but that's what we've got. The radius to me looks about the same as that difference between press escape, this and this space here. So it's probably just to put dimension on it. What we can do is down here behind my face, there's a little dimension, a little measurement, which I can't see. So I'm just going to put dimension on it. And it's 3 1 3, it's 5/16. So we select sketch fillet, click that dot, and that dot, and that dot, and that dot, and it says 1/4 inch, but we want 5/16, so 0.3125 is 5/16 of an inch. And we missed one. If we click that again, probably save the dimension, so that should be good. That's that right size. Now, looking at our picture, and we're going to have a look at the picture here. It's got a round corner on the inner as well. See that? So the inner square there has got a nice round corner as well. If we look at the drawing, it shows a nice round corner, but it doesn't really give us a lot of information about it. It's probably a bit smaller. Let's go 1/4 inch and see how it looks. Probably on the pattern, we're going to make them square, so you just file them to fit. But we can put a corner radius here on this one, and this one, this one, and this one. Now, it's saved it as 313, so we're going to have to change that, or we can just type in 1/4 works and it'll convert it itself, and that gives us that. Now, there's a flange as well on the outside. That's the trouble with all these scenes, is I don't change everything back. But there's a flange on the outside there. And it's 4 5/8 in diameter. So we click here, center point circle. I'll put another center point circle here, which is the same, I think, as that. Except it's not, it's 4 5/8. 4.625 is 5/8. And it's over constrained because something doesn't quite work there. Let's work around that. If we click undo, and put a new circle in. Circle in here, that's got to be 4 5/8. So the best way is just to draw that way outside. And just change the dimension to 4.625, and that should sort itself out. There we go. That all works. So next thing is to extrude all these things. Now the width of the yoke, or the retainer, or the C piece that holds it all in place, is 2 3/4 inches wide. If we move this around here, but clicking on that corner will give us that view. And then extrude. But we don't want to extrude that one. We want to extrude, not that one. That one. That one. And we go symmetrically, and that puts half out each side. If we look at the left-hand side, see there's this centre line, let's put half each side. It's much wider than that. It's 2 3/4 wide. So if we change this to 2.75, that moves that out there. So the reason I'm getting better at this is that I had time to sit down and prepare this one and some time to think about it. I knew what I was doing before I started, and I wasn't quite as rushed, and I'm a little bit more settled down. So that's our first extrusion. That automatically hides that first sketch. We'll close that again. And work out what we've done wrong. This needs to be the full width of the bearing, so I'm going to actually edit that where it says 2 3/4 inches. It's also 7/16 on each side because everything's measured. 7/16 and 7/16 is 7/8, and 2 3/4. So it's 3.5 and 8 is 3 5/8 overall width. Is that right? 3 5/8. Someone should be checking this. 3 5/8. 3.625. There we go. That should be the total width. Now, another extrusion. Is this piece. And we'll extrude that 3 5/8 too for the time being. We'll make that as a new piece though. We'll make that symmetric. 3.625, does that make any sense? That's given us that there. Now there's two ways we could do that. We could re-extrude this and take one from the other and leave a gap in the middle, or we can mirror it across, which is probably the sensible way. If we're mirroring it, what you find is that we've only got to go half that distance, which is 1.5 inches, and 5/16 is 8/16, and 5/16, 8 and 5 is 13/16, inch and 13/16. Inch and 13/16. Can't just put a fraction in there, but inch and 13/16, inch and 12 3/4, 812. 1.8125. That's inch and 3/16, isn't it? Yeah. We'll unclick that symmetric, and that should run at the same spot. Yep. Now, if we put There's an easier way again. Look, we had 3 ways to do this. We can put a second end position on it and move that out here. Or we can use this starting offset. And that way, all we need to do is make this 7/16, like so. And we put starting offset as 1/2 of 2 3/4, which is 1.375 is 1 3/8. And that puts that on there. We use this function up here. It says mirror, part mirror. We mirror that one. And our mirror plane, if we click on that, it's red, is this one here. And we can use the add function. We can leave them as new parts. Or we can add them in. So we might as well add them in there now. And that's basically a main bearing. There is a flange on each side. If we hide that part, come back to the sketch, that flange is this shape. So if we extrude this one and this one, and this little bit here in the bottom, and the front there, just to make sure that that's a perfect circle. Yep. Click that on there and make that one symmetric. That width there. Hey, Peter. Good to see you. So I don't think anyone really expects you to be here, but thank you. Three 16th and 7/16 is 10/16, which is 5/8 of an inch. So we can easily put in that 5/8 of an inch there. And then this is 1 3/8. And we'll do that in decimal equivalent. Let's look at that. Now, what that's done, if we put that part back in, is not what it needed to do. It's put that there for some reason. So I need to have another look at this. I've got a measurement wrong. 2 3/4 is 1 3/8. And then from there, our starting offset should be 1 3/8, which should be the same as this one here. Let's just check this. I'm going to look here for this little measurement. Let's close that, and then we've got a little measurement there. It says measure. It's behind my head. That's why I can't see it. Length. So let's find the distance between this one and this one. Not in millimetres because that's confusing. Let's go back to inches. 2 3/4. Parallel distance, 2 3/4. Is that right? It's definitely right. So, why does extrude 3 work like that? Half of 2 3/4 is inch and 3/8, isn't it? That doesn't seem to work particularly well. So some troubleshooting there. If we close that, we go to extrude 1, which is the first one we popped out here. We go to extrude 2, edit that, see what it is. Now, our inside depth is inch and 3/8 to there. So, why is it so that the same inside depth in the next piece doesn't work? It's from the same spot there to there. So we can measure this again. For measure from there to there. In the y direction, it's only 1.63, which is a bit strange. There we go. Anyway. This is definitely the circuit the circle that we're extruding. Let's do this differently. It's actually 3/16 is the thickness of it. So if we do 3/16, no idea why it's doing that. But let's calculate this distance across here. We don't even need to calculate it. What we need to do is find the dimension. So if we go back here to the little measurement square, and we measure between this one and this one in the y direction, because that's what our little square up here says. 3 5/8 is what it is. So half of 3 5/8 is only needs to be rough. Half of 3 5/8 is 18 biscuits. G'day. Half of 3 5/8 is 1.5 inches, and 5/16 is 1.8125. There we go. So probably the best way to do this, if we change this extrusion to 1/4 inch here, and 1.75 gives us the correct. I don't know why I didn't do it before. That's a mystery. But that's given us a 1/16 of an inch overlap in there, or a bit more. It's still not right. Let's delete this completely. Not sure it's like that. But we can do this. So on this surface here, if we have a new sketch and sketch on this actual plane, and then we click this button here, and we use this sketch line and this sketch line, that transfers the sketch out onto the front plane there. Right, then all we need to do is extrude that. We'll make a new piece, 3/16, so that works out. Like so. Because we've made a new piece rather than two pieces, see that? Or rather than adding it in, what we can now do is mirror this. So if we entity to mirror is that one, and we mirror on, click the mirror plane, it's red. On that plane. And we can click add rather than new. That's automatically done that in part 1, which is this part. So there we go. We got there in the end. So there's that. Now, by the way, this is an 8 horsepower Marshall traction engine main bearing. For those who've just come in, this is what it looks like. We'll go to this picture. Right, basically that's how it looks. And we've got a drawing that looks something like this. So that gives us all the parts. It gives us our big ends and our straps, or sheaves, or whatever you want to call them, and our conrod and our wedges and our bolts and our little end and all that stuff. So made the observation it's much simpler than the Fowler. That looks like quite a good thing. Now, if we go back here to onshape, this is what we've got. So it looks something like it. Now on this side here, there's a radius or a fillet, I think. Probably a couple of fillets. It tells me that the crank has a 3/16 radius in the corners of the journals. And there's a fillet around the outside of that piece that sticks out. So around here there's a fillet. Let's do the fillet first. Click on that line there. 3/16 it is. As that's how far the piece sticks out. I think we can probably do the other one. Nope, doesn't like that. It used to do it, but it doesn't seem to do it recently. One for this end. And that would look probably even better if we did it a 1/4 inch. So let's change that and see how it looks. It does. I think that's a much nicer looking thing. So let's do the same to the other one. Now, the smart way to do this is to have a chart with all these dimensions on it, and then you've got to sort of change the dimension, and then they all change the same. Now, what did we say? This has got a 3/16 radius on the inside as well. So we'll change that. And the same on this one. So there's our main bearing basically. There's 2 little features that it needs. We'll have a look at this. We'll go right. That's the corner we want to look at. Now, 2 features it needs. Just push it because, why is it made all out of bronze? Because they're adjustable. It's split, and it, for example, one of my roller is about 3/8 short on one end, is how far it's worn. So there's long life really is the main reason, I think. Now, it needs a split in it, and it needs an oil hole. It doesn't really say how big the oil hole is. Have a look at the picture though. Have this picture. Which of course has got metric ruler inches. Metric ruler, that's not helpful at all. Big thanks for that. Thanks, Stephen. That one's also got a metric ruler. It's also got a roofing screw for scale. Anyway, it looks to be about a 1/4 inch hole, doesn't it? I'm going to go with 1/4 inch. In through the top and the centre. It's a simple job. I think we can just use this function, which is hole. Hole type. Sketch points to place holes. We need to sketch that. So let's just make a sketch on this surface here. This is the face of the extrusion on that dot. 0.25, let's go with that. And extrude. Now we need the remove function. And all we do is say, because it's not an inch thick. So there's the hole for that. Next job is we use this function here, which is split. And we want a part to split. Which one? We can click on it down here, or we can just click on the part. Entity to split with is this plane. And we've got two parts. If we hide one of them, then you can see basically the profile of it. So that's how that looks. Make one half a different colour. And if we make this in sign material, let's call it gunmetal. No. Bronze. For bronze, that sounds pretty good. If we assign phosphor bronze to this part too, assign material. Phosphor bronze, that's what we said, wasn't it? Is it the same one we use? I think so. Let's just check to make sure we've got the same material for both. Yes, we do. So then down here, oh my gosh, you're not even watching. Sorry, guys. Let's go back to onshape. What I've done is assigned each part to phosphor bronze. Now down here, there's a little, and I can't see it because it's behind my computer screen. No one's thought that through. If I look around here, I can. We have a little set of scales there. There's this. And if we check that one and that one, part 1 and 2, in bronze, our mass is 6 kilograms, 6.082 kilograms. So that's how much bronze is in it, basically. There'll be more in the casting because it needs machining allowance and so forth. But that's the actual finished product. Now, we need to put machining allowance on this. So it'll need some on, have a look here. It's going to need some on this face here and on here. It's going to need some on this face here. If we close that sketch, or hide the sketch, it's going to need some machining allowance on there and there and there. And on the inside faces here and here. Inside the ball. And probably outside of there. Whether this needs to be machined, I'm not sure. If it was mine, I probably wouldn't. But give it 1/16 of an inch so you can clean it up. So that's where we're at. Next job, if we go down here to where it says Part Studio 1, we'll rename that as, hang on, rename that as machine bearing brass. We should be renaming all these things. Now, if we click on that, we can duplicate that. And that gives us a file that's called machine bearing brass copy 1. If we rename that, not to get it mixed up, cast we call that cast bearing brass. Now, this E is here because I opened this in a new tab, so it's telling me someone else is editing it. If I close that, that disappears. So that's what that's for, in case anyone spotted it. Now, if I share this file and someone else is editing it, it'll come up with their initial or their marker in that corner. Now, if we go to the duplicate here, and name, it's the same part. So we can click suppress on the split. And that gives us all one piece. Extrude 4 we don't need, so we can click suppress on that. Sketch 3 we can hide. So that's got rid of the oil hole. And sketch 1, which is this one, we could edit this a bit. So looking at this sketch, we need to think a little bit about casting it now. Do we want to put a core in it? Probably the best way is to cast both halves with a core. So to make a half piece with a core print on each end, so that we're saving a bit of brass. I think it needs to be cast in both halves, and we only need one pattern if we do that because they're both identical. But if we make a solid core 3 and 3.5 inch diameter and 4 inches long, that's a fair lump of a core to put in that. We could probably just mould it, but you can't really. It's not an easy thing to mould because it's hollow on the top as well. So ideally you want to mould it with the split side down in the first box, and then mould the sand and then lift it out the bottom. You could make a half core quite comfortably. And you would end up with a much better result than just trying to ram sand in there and doing it at open side mould, which doesn't seem like a good idea. So I'm thinking out loud. Sorry, guys. Thanks for your patience there. But for anyone who's here who's following along, I see there's 4 people watching. This is actually a Marshall traction engine main bearing we're working on. We'll have another look at the pictures just for those that come in late and keep you a little bit interested. We'll show you what's happening so you're not completely in the dark. But this is the main bearing pattern, or the main bearing bronze, and now they're quite elliptical. They're completely worn out. We need to replicate this and this. Now, we're talking about this core here, or I'm thinking about this core. Now, you can't mould this in one piece. I don't think that it's going to be any good with a core through the center. I think that's just going to be, I don't like that. So I think it'd be better to make it in 2 parts, and then all you need is a pattern for this half and a pattern for this half. But it does need a core in it or something. So probably the best is to make 2 half cores. Which only needs to be a half open, sort of a half a piece of pipe with the sand packed in, and that might be a really good way to do it. So let's get ahead and do that. So having a look again at onshape. This drawing. That's 3 3/4. Now, the crank's got to be ground, so it's going to be a bit undersize. 3 1/2 gives you 1/8 of an inch on each side, and that to me is probably enough if you're careful setting it up. But 3 inches gives us 3/8 on each side. That'd probably be pretty good. So we'll change that drawing. Now that's automatically changed the fillets and everything. I think we could get rid of these fillets. It's that one. If we suppress that rather than delete it. And this one, it just turns it off basically. Now that gives us a machining allowance on the inside. What this needs, sketch 1, we'll turn that sketch back on. And we'll extrude this. Symmetrically. .75, that looks about right. probably. It's only a fairly short core print, but that gives us a core print. Turn that split back on, and we can turn part 1 off because we really don't need that. But that gives us a core print to support the core in the mould in the sand. If we pour it this way up with a core in the centre here, this can turn that sketch off because it's going to drive us crazy. So core the shape in the sand impression. We make a sand impression that core this shape in there. Then we've got, basically we're only filling this amount of brass. They have adjustment to pull in and say where a little bit, yes. They're done up flat TMB. They're done up tight, and adjustments basically machine a bit off them. I took 15 thou off the roller, and it probably wasn't enough on the left-hand side because it was using a lot of oil. They probably both want another 10 thou off them, I think. So basically set them up, machine 10 thou off and put them back together. But I'd like to see new bearings, this same process in my roller as well at some point. And we might do that. This would be the cheaper way to do it rather than cast and make them out of solid. So that's what we got. Now, we want a little bit of machining allowance on here. So on this side here, it'd be good to have some draft, perhaps. Be 3 degrees this side and this side. If we have a look at sketch 1. No, let's take a new sketch. On this plane here, the same as sketch 1. If we press N for normal, that brings it round so that that's the right direction for that. Sketch plane. So if we turn on sketch 1, like so, just click on that little eye. And we use this use or project button. We can use that one, and that line, that line, that line, probably that line, that line, that line, that line, that line, that line, and that line, I think. And probably this one across the centre, which is that one. Zoom this in so we can select that line as well. Now, we close that. That's basically a new sketch with those parameters on them. What we need to do is put some draft on here, and probably the easiest way to do that is just a line like this. And a dimension on it. Between that line and that line is 3 degrees. 2.5 is probably plenty. Yes, it needs additional material for machining on all surfaces apart from the two outside flats. Probably even the two outside flats need. Yeah, apart from the two outside flats. That's exactly right. We can probably just use this one. Just constraint this one and this one. Gives it a parallel line. So what we've done there is made this one exactly the same angle as that one. If we put a measurement on it, we'll be able to see. Just to prove that, 2.5. So we'll make that sort of that shape, like that shape. Trim this one out. And we don't need this one. We can trim the ends of these nicely here. Actually, we don't want to do that yet. Control Z fixes that. Now, what we can do is trim this one. Line through there. Press Q for construction line. It lights up that other box. Put this through here. Press escape so there's no dimension on it. It's just a construction line. And it gives us a place to basically trim there. Does it? It gives us a mirror line anyway. We trim here. This one and this one. And we'll mirror. Select the mirror line, which will be this one. Entities to be mirrored. It gives us exactly the same. Now, this offset. How much machining allowance? How much machining allowance does it need? 1/8 inch seems like a lot. That's 1/8 of an inch. Does it need 1/8 of an inch on it? Probably does. Keep going with sketch 4. I've closed that by mistake. And then 1/8 of an inch on this one too. If we extrude this one there. Needs a complete chain. You can't just offset any lines. Click back so it's all back up here in the 0.125. We can actually click extend here, extend this line out to there. That's not what we want to do. What we want to do is extend this line here all the way to there. And this line here all the way to there. And then select trim, which is M, we can click. for the shortcut, and we'll trim these. So that's given us a little bit of machining allowance all the way around. See that? So same deal really. We can delete this inside line, or we can just extrude the lot. Does it need machining allowance on there? Let's put 1/16 of an inch on the outside anyway. It probably doesn't, to be honest, but it'd be easy to clean it up. So we'll go 1/2 inch. So it's given us 1/2 inch on the outside there. It's given us 1/16 of an inch on the inside too. Let's do that. And we will swap that. We'll mirror that. So let's mirror this piece on the mirror planes there in the center. And add them in. Let's fix that. So they've got a bit of a length. They've got 1/8 of an inch all the way around. 1/8 of an inch all the way around there, and 1/16 of an inch on the outside. This one here is the same. Now this space here, if we look at sketch 4 again, and extrude this again, this one. That's given us 1/8 of an inch there as well, which is quite a lot. I've just made that go past the edge there. I haven't really thought about it very much. But what we do need to do is make it go both ways. So if we go symmetric here, and 3 inches. Add that one in. Let's add it in. We can hide the sketch. That's given us 1/8 of an inch all over there. A little bit more. It's given us 3/8 of an inch on the inside for the core. 1/16 of an inch on each side, which only leaves 1/8 of an inch here. So this here needs to be extruded too. So the best thing we can do is make a sketch on here, probably the quickest way. And we can use the use function. Right, that's basically brought a sketch on that profile. And I think we need to kick that out, say 1/8 of an inch. So we extrude that. So just missing some faces, sketch 5. There we go. If we made that another 1/8 of an inch, and a new piece as well. And mirror that. Entity to mirror plane, this one. And it's happy, so we'll leave that at that. Click the green button. That's given us a little bit more there. Now, because this fillet here really needs to be machined too, I think this needs to be bigger diameter. We go back to sketch 5 and edit it. Click N for normal. And offset this line. 1/4 of an inch is too much. 1/8 of an inch is probably pretty good. And extend I think we're just going to probably put a line between there and there. It's probably the easy way. And this one and this one. And then you can probably use the trim tool, which is M. Trim that one out. And theoretically, what have we got here? There we go. So let's put plenty of machining allowance on there. What we don't have now is very much distance here. If we have another look at this, we'll go down here and find that. Are we following along? Because it says we've got a poor connection. Go back down here and check out the measurement tool and just measurement on that line there. It's 1/4 of an inch. Is 1/4 of an inch enough for... I'd like to see 1/8 of an inch more on it. So this extrusion here, which is extrusion 5, let's make that 5 inches. Okay, so that's got our gap on it all around. And it looks good. It needs some fillets and things, but there we go. Thanks, Steve. I reckon it wants a few fillets in here to release nicely. So we can go ahead and do that. We're going to do one at a time, which is a nuisance. 3/16 fillet, probably 1/8 would do. There we go. Don't want one here. We can possibly avoid it. It wouldn't hurt though, I think. Do the same here. Because we've sort of parameters, we've only got to put them in once. What we don't have is, I don't think it's going to be a problem, is any draft this way. If it was a full surface, I think we would have a problem with it. We could easily put draft on it that way, but I don't think it needs it. I think we might just try without it. What we're going to do is put a fillet around here. Like so. I think we're going to make it a bit bigger than that. And that'll help quite a lot. Like so. And we're going to do the same on the other end. So just rinse and repeat. It automatically should put it all the way around, but it didn't. Green button again up there. That's given us a fillet there and a fillet there. I think that should mould release fairly nicely. I'm going to just take a little bit of a fillet off here, not much. 0.1, 100th there. Not even. Let's go 16th. Right. And we'll do the same in here. Now, what we've discovered, or what I've just thought of, is that we don't have any machining allowance on this edge here, between here and here. Now we can check that. That's probably the next thing to do. Have an assembly. Open the assembly. And insert the two parts. So this gives a list of all the parts. So if we machine it, leave part 2, and if we don't move off there, that doesn't move around the central part, see? If we move off that square, then it locates back on. So we're going to click that one. And the cast bearing brasses, part 2. Right? So it shows you our machining allowance, but there is none here on the centre. I don't think it'll matter because it should nearly clean up. It's quite a bit bigger. So, what do we think? Is it on there? It probably does, I think. I'd like to see at least 16th of an inch, probably 1/8 of an inch on here as well. So let's go back here to the casting. And this fillet here that we stretched out, not that one, not that one, the extrusion, which is this one. Hover over that, it gives us the outline of it. No, not that one. Extrude 6 it is. Let's go inch and a quarter, 1.25. And then 5/8. We go 1.3125, which is inch and 5/16. That seems to work. So let's give it a bit of allowance there, and that should all fix itself up. Now if we have a look at our assembly, and that's given us some allowance in there as well. So it's got machine allowance all over it. There's a fair bit to take out of that. Quite a lot. We've done here is probably the wrong part. Let's insert the part off the other drawing. Do that insert. There's this part, this opposite part. So that's that's how much space we've got around. Yeah, we've got quite a bit of machining allowance in here, probably too much, to be honest, and quite a bit all over. So there's a fair bit of machine work in there. Aft on the side so it comes out. Everything else should be pretty good, I think. I think it's got too much bronze on it. This has got a core print here. We can imagine that this diameter here that I highlight, that's missing when we cast it, so that's going to be the shape. So that's the pattern basically. If we set my ram sand around this pattern, let's have a look at this. Try and get this the right way up to past, like that. So if we ram sand around this pattern, then lift it out, and or ram sand around the pattern, and then turn it over, so upside down, right, and ram sand on the top part of the box as well, surface. Then lift this out and drop a core in the same dimensions as that, the same length. Then that'll give us a space to actually, a decent sand that's not going to actually fall in. If we leave that as sand and turn the box over, you're going to find that that piece of sand that's just in there rough is going to break off. So we need a core. Part one we can probably delete because we're not going to need that. And then we can do the same again. We can make a, on this one, right click this and then duplicate. It's not the one we want to duplicate, so we're going to delete that. Yeah. Delete that one. What we want to duplicate is this. Right click that and duplicate. Calls us a cast bearing brass copy 1. So let's rename that again to core. Then we make a sketch on this edge here. Probably the easiest, simplest way to do it. Use this use or project button. We've got a sketch, then all we need to do is extrude that. We need to remember how far we extruded that. There's a new part. Five inches, that's right. Get that off. Close it. That's what our core needs to be. We can do a very similar thing to make a core box. There's two things we could do to make a core box. We could find a piece of PVC pipe the right size and cut it in half, and that'd work. We could 3D print a proper core box, which would sort of work too, but it's a more cost-effective or less cost-effective or time-effective anyway to do that, because it's quite a big print. That's what our core is going to look like. I've actually done it the wrong way. Anyway, if we, part 2, if we duplicate that, we're going to just have to do the same with this one. There are other ways to do this if it was a more complicated part, but it's not. So we've got a core. Part 1 we can delete on this one. We've got the right one, so delete that part. That gives us our core. Now we need a core box. So we can duplicate that again. Rename it core box. And we can do a sketch on this plane here. And space around it somehow. We'll call it 5.5. Won't go too big. That's the wrong way. I click on that dimension. So again, because it's big. There we go, that's about right. And extrude that square. New piece. That looks about right. And then we use a Boolean union or a subtraction. We don't want to keep the tools. The tool we want to use is that, and the target is that. And basically that's a core box. It needs some holes in it for CO2, and it needs a fillet around the corner. Probably a fairly big one. And there we go. Pretty much ready to print. So we've got all our parts. There's our core box and our sand core. Which looks something like that. It's going to have a fillet on it, of course, because the box will have a fillet. Right, if we come back to this one, what we can do if we duplicate this again, we'll call this one moulding sand. And the magic bit, let's do a sketch on this on the right plane. Eight-inch square around it, and extract. As a new piece. Like that. Let's change the appearance of part 3 to grey sand, and we'll do an boolean here, subtraction, tools that, the target's that. Now, this gives us the impression in the sand. So that's what it's going to look like. Give us some idea that it's probably going to come out. I thought we had a fillet on that one, did we? And it's got a core in there, so that gives us some idea of what the pattern's going to look like. The mold's going to look like to pour the sand in. It's got a square box on top, and probably be poured through here. So that's the entire pattern making process all the way through there. What this doesn't have is a fillet on the inside because we changed that. We'll go back to here. Because we changed this fillet here has disappeared, so it's probably a good idea to fix that while we're thinking of it. That's why it's a good idea to do this in CAD, because we can check it all. If we'd use the derive function instead of the duplicate function, then all this would automatically update, but it hasn't done that. I don't believe. So we've got to go back and do the same with this one. Derived is quite a useful thing in that it pulls something from another drawing. It also slows everything down a bit. It's resource heavy to the point if you've got something like a Foden truck with 250 pieces, then it crashes your internet connection. So let's fix that and put a fillet on the inside corner there, hasn't it? Has it? No. It's because they're on the wrong side of that boolean. If we pull them up, then they work. So that's got a fillet on the inside. If we want to look at this, we can click section view, and our section plane is going to be probably top. And that gives us some idea there. Get this through, right? Core in there. That looks pretty good. It's a difficult colour to see, so I'm going to go a bit lighter there with that. And this one here, it's also difficult to make it more a sand colour like that. But there we go, there's the mould. So that's cool. Can you work out the bottom volume of brass? I believe so. Can we work out the volume of a cavity? Probably we can't. If we go to this. If we rename this one pattern, right? and we duplicate that one again. We're going to do this again. Let's just do the Daru new tab. Right, and then we use this function here, which is derived. And we select the part studio that we want to use, which is the pattern, part 1. Sketch 6, I think we want to bring into. Right. Now we could make a sketch of this on here. And we can use the project button. Extrude that. Remove it. Instead of blind, we go through all. Here we go. So that's what the casting is going to look like when it comes out. Pretty much. Now, volume of brass on that is, I'm going to go back here to this one here, mass properties. On this one, 5.477 kilograms. So it's quite a lot more. Quite a lot more than the other part, the machine one. 5.477, 5.5 more or less. Whereas this one, which is the machine one, mass properties, I'm going to look around here again. This is really, I've got to put another stand under this monitor so that I can see both. Is 3.41, so it's nearly double. Nearly double the brass in it for machining allowance. .5, 3.0. It's not quite double, but it's getting there. Probably too much all over, but there's more room for stuff ups and more room for parts not being quite to drawing spec and all that sort of stuff. So we might leave it at that. Anyway, so that's what we've got. If we go to our assembly, we can put all these bits in, I think. Let's start this again. Right, and we're going to insert. Let's start with the pattern. Let's start with the casting. Right, so the first one's the casting. Let's put the core in. Like so. That's where the core fits. And then let's insert the moulding sandbox. Now, there's no interference, no problems there. Everything looks really good. There's no red lines. There we go. So that's the pattern in the mould. That looks really good. Oh, that's the casting in the mould. When we break it open, it should look something like that. And so insert this one, which is our pattern. Do a bit of a cut that one out. There we go. So we start with it. The process is we start with this way up, right? We ram sand around it and turn it over, and we lift that pattern out. Gives us a depression like that. We make a core, we drop that in. We'll put a bowl top on it, and then fill it up with metal. Like so, basically. It's not the right one. Fill it up with metal like so. And then we take the box off the core and the box off. You're left with that, and we wash the core out. Come on. That one. No, it's not. I'm getting a bit tired. We wash the core out, and we've got a casting like that. We need 4 of them. So that's everything ready to go, I think. Looks good. It's a matter of printing the pattern. Give you some idea. Hopefully it should fit on my printer. That's another thing. What we can do here, I think I worked out how to do like that. That's me back. It didn't work. Anyway, we'll have a look at some point and just see if it actually fits. Have a look at some point and see if it actually fits on the printer. I think it will. Shouldn't be any problems with it. Just a matter of printing it. Just off camera quickly, I'm going to export that. Export the pattern. As a STL file. And then find our 3D printer software. ALA, 15% infill. Keep going. Come on, you can do it. It's okay. Nine hours and 5 minutes to print that. And about 500 grams of filament. No, 234 grams of filament. So a quarter of a spool, 9 hours. Anyway, so that's all doable. All looks good. Fixable. So that's basically a pattern ready to go. I'm going to print that at some point for him and send him some pictures of that because he'll probably appreciate that more than the screenshots. And we should be pretty much cast them in the next trip up north. There's lots of jobs to do, so there's a fair bit of bronze involved. Steve's actually saying buy new bronze for it. Just buy new bronze. And that would work too, but it's kind of 10 kilograms at what, $9 a kilogram. It's $100 worth of bronze, something like that in it. Probably more than that. Scrap value, probably $200 worth of bronze at new price, and it's still got to have a bit of zinc and stuff in it anyway. So that's what I've done. Thanks guys for sticking with it. Hope it was a little bit sort of helpful. I don't know. It was fun to do. It's going to be a fun. It should get them underway. That's sort of all the work done. The core box needs some CO2 holes in it. That's another print, of course, that's going to be fairly big. If I can find a piece of I'm going to have another look at this measurement here. I can't remember what we made that. A piece of 3-inch ID pipe or something, that'd do the job nicely. We just make some ends for it. But a 3D printed proper core box with some filler on it and stuff would be probably nice. Anyway, I'm going to bed, guys. It's 20 to 10. I'll probably sleep pretty well. But thank you. Proper live stream with updates on the shed and stuff tomorrow night. Should be here on my own at this point. Dan's in Sydney, and no one else is around much. The engine's been steam tested. We'll have an update on that. The railway locomotive here has been sort of steam tested. There's some updates on that. I've put some stuff away, and I've got my last load of stuff down from Brisbane. So we'll talk about all that tomorrow night. But thanks, guys. Be kind to each other, especially to me. I'm going to go and crawl up in the back of the van and go to sleep. My coffee cup's empty. I might actually go and get another cup of tea. Don't know. We'll see. Might just go to bed. I haven't had dinner yet, and all I've had to eat all day was 2 little cucumbers. So I probably should go and do something about that too. Anyway, good night.